Hey everybody, I'm Justin with CBI Off-Road in Prinsu. Today we're working on a 2021 Lexus 570. We're installing a Prinsu roof rack. Stay tuned for the install. We'll show you how to get it on. Alright, so we're starting at the back of the vehicle, and to remove the factory rack, we're going to need to drop the headliner to give us access to the nuts that hold the rack on. So once we get the headliner down, we'll be able to remove those nuts, pull the factory rack off, and install the Prinsu. That's just kind of a tedious process, but if you follow along with our instructions, you'll be fine. There's these panels here that we'll remove. There's a Phillips head screw behind here. And we'll just kind of work our way towards the front, getting the headliner down. Okay, so we've worked our way up to the C-pillar and we've removed the lower portion. There is a 10mm bolt holding this on down here, so we'll need a socket to get that down. Once we loosen that, we'll kind of pop out the clips outward, and then we need it to slide down to be able to release it from the top here. So we'll go ahead and get that 10mm bolt out and work this C-pillar down. All right, so we're kind of working our way through the vehicle, getting all the trim down. Talking about this center upward display, there's two little access panels in there. We're just going to use this pick to pull the covers down, exposing two Phillips head screws. Once we get those screws out, we'll be able to drop that down. Same thing over here, pull these little covers out of the handles, so we'll be able to get the A-pillar out. But yeah, we're almost done removing things to where the headliner can come down. So we'll just keep easing our way through it. Okay, so you can see we got our headliner down. Next step is to access some mounting bolts that are sticking through. We need to remove this piece of ductwork right here. It's just held in place by these little clips here, so we'll just remove those on up, and then we'll be able to access our bolts. All right, so we got that ductwork out of the way. Now we have full access to our bolts that hold the factory roof rack on. They're a 10 millimeter. There's one in the back, there's a set of two, another set of two, and one single in the front on both sides. So we're gonna start with the back. We'll start working our way to the front and getting those out. All right, so our next step, we get to take a little break from the madness of the headliner de-install. Now what we're gonna do is start kind of laying out, making sure we got all our hardware and prepping everything for installing the roof rack. So real quick, this hardware is to actually secure the rack to the vehicle. There's our plus nut, spacers, and bolts in that package. This is just your eyelets for tie downs on top of the rack. This bag here contains all the T30 Torx bolts that install the cross rails. This is the wind deflector hardware, and of course we have our Loctite. So what I'm gonna start doing is prepping all the T30 Torx bolts with some Loctite to install these crossbars. So now that we have our hardware prepped for our crossbars, we're gonna go ahead and start installing the crossbars. And they're gonna install in these smaller slots here, not the longer slots. And I'm only gonna install the ones that are not by a mounting foot, just because I don't wanna interfere with when we're trying to mount it on there, getting these bolts tight. And I'm using a low torque impact, so you want to make sure if you do use an impact that it's low torque or adjusted all the way down to its lowest setting so you don't strip these out, or just go old-fashioned, use them by hand. So we're going to go ahead and get these put in now. So the next step, we're back at the car. We're going to start installing our plus nuts in the roof. So the idea behind these is they go into the existing factory holes, and you have this hex coupler, you tighten them down, and it expands this into a plus underneath the roof, and that's how it grabs. So this is gonna be a lot of talking, but I think you'll really appreciate the information. So basically take one of your bolts out of your kit, get a washer, put it on the bolt, you have your hex coupler, slide that on, and then one of the plus nuts. So to compress these, you want to make sure that this plus nut is snug against this hex coupler. If it's not, what you'll be doing is you'll be holding the hex coupler with a 1/2" wrench, just like this, and you'll be trying to compress it with a 7/16 socket like this, and you'll be turning it, and it'll just continue to turn that plus nut like so. If the plus nut is tightened down against the hex coupler and you put your wrench on it, you won't be able to turn that freely, it'll start compression. So that's what you want when you're expanding this in the roof. Also, you want to take some silicone, put it on this leading edge, and then push it flat into the hole so that you have a good weather tight seal. So we'll go ahead and start getting these compressed. All right, so we got our rack up here, and I have all of our spacers and bolts kind of staged where they're gonna be installed. We're just gonna get everything siliconed and all our spacers in. We're gonna get our bolts started hand tight. We're not gonna tighten them down yet because we wanna jump down and get alignment straightened out. So for now, we're just gonna get everything siliconed and hand tight. Let's get it going. All right, so we got everything silicone, we got it tightened down, everything's secure. Now we're gonna go ahead and start installing our crossbars that we left out on the ground. So just wherever there's an opening, we're gonna get that installed. And also the wind deflector, we'll get that set up as well. So get these going. All right, so now we're gonna get our wind deflector assembled and prepped. So preparation for the hardware, you need to take these Phillips head bolts, slide on the washer, and the same Loctite we use on our T30 bolts, we're gonna apply a little bit to these. Also, you wanna get your T-nuts installed in this channel here. Just make sure you have the threaded side facing up, and our noise reducing trim, we'll apply that as well. Once we get all that done, we'll take it to the vehicle and install it. Okay, so now that our Prinsu's done up top, we start the fun part of getting all this mess put back together. Just following along slowly and just taking your time should be just fine. We're gonna start by getting this ductwork specifically back together, and then we'll work our way kind of towards the front. So we'll go ahead and get this in. All right, so now that we got the headliner supported in the back, we're good to start putting these panels back together, reattaching our seat belts, safety restraints. Once we get all this reattached back here, we'll jump in the front seats and start reattaching everything up there. right, guys, thank you for watching today's install tutorial of the 2021 Lexus Prinsu roof rack install. Hope you had a good time. You know the deal. Like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Thank you, guys.